Hello, everybody. This is Jake Gino, host of the Jake and Gino podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, chef, the father, six best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbo. Gino, how's it going?
I'm doing great, Jake. How are you, bro?
No dumbbells coming my way today, man. We're keeping the peace here. A little inside joke here. So, hey, we got a great guest today. Today's guest is nationally recognized keynote speaker and author of Own Your Freedom. He has inspired audiences with his journey to build meaningful freedom through passive income and create a life for what matters most. So without further ado, David Phelps, welcome to the show.
Jake Gino, privileged to be here. Thank you, gentlemen.
It is our pleasure. Please share with us your story and how you got started.
So I was an entrepreneur at an early age. I kid today, but I grew up in a good family, but I always wanted more. I wanted independence, like not to leave my house, right? Because I had a good roof and food on the table, but I just wanted stuff. I wanted a better bike. I wanted a better tennis racket. I love playing tennis. So I wanted a better racket, not the Kmart special. And I wanted a little TV for my room. So I didn't have to like watch the family shows. I'm 13 years old or whatever, right? So I learned at an early age that if I wanted to have more freedom and independence, and I need to go figure out how to get it. So I learned how to sell. I sold greeting cards door to door. I did lawn jobs. I had a newspaper route, made enough money that I could go buy the stuff I wanted to have my independence at an early age. And then I took the safe and secure route. I went to college, and then I went to professional school, dental school, to become a dentist. Well, why? Because that's safe and secure. I mean, if you're a professional, you always got a job, right? You make good money, but there's still always something
beat into you too. That was the roadmap that was beat into you by society. I'm sure that was the job to get, right?
That's it. And I think, today we'll talk about it, but today, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. We need good people that do those things. But what I still had the inside part of me that was still an entrepreneur. And even when I was in college, when I should have been studying, some of the science stuff that I need to get the credits to graduate, I actually grabbed books on investing money. I didn't have any money. I was waiting tables, making my way through school, trying to reduce the amount of debt I'd have. But I read books about being an investor, and certainly there's a lot of books about Wall Street and mutual funds and all the day trading and all that stuff. And this is back in the 70s, so there was no internet. There was you had to actually go to the library to get a book. I found some books on real estate. In fact, I've got the one that actually triggered me. And I love this book because it's autographed by you guys know William Nickerson? You ever heard of him?
Yeah, I got Bill Nickerson's book.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, this is like the Bible back.
This looks like a textbook for the folks not on YouTube.
Yeah.
What's that thing weigh? 10 pounds or what?
It's thick. Yeah, I mean, it's but you know what? The concepts, the basics are all there. And I read that book and I thought, this makes sense. Wall Street didn't make any sense. I thought there's a tangible asset that I could learn how to control. And so I talked to my dad because I had no money. I talked to my dad, who lived a couple states away, was not an entrepreneur. He was a physician, but not entrepreneurial. And I said, "Hey, Dad, you know what? This real estate thing, I think we should do something about it, right? I could either rent for the next 4 years, or we could own a property together." So I talked him into being my financial partner. He put up the credit and the down payment, and I managed the property. We bought this house when I was first year in dental school, and 4 years later, we split about $50,000 in capital gain profit. That was 1983 when I took that money and I parlayed that into more and more properties.
That's
massive
money
leverage
back then. That
was big money. Here was the lesson, guys. Is, as I alluded to, I waited tables through college and dental school, and it was good money. It was flexible hours. It was fun. You worked with people you like. I had fun waiting tables, and I made pretty good dollar per hour with tips. I mean, probably back in the 80s, I was doing probably 18 to 20 bucks an hour, on the side. That's good money. But what I realized after I went through 4 years of doing that, and then looked at the capital gain profit I made from this one asset, that I spent a little time on the front end acquiring it, negotiating, finding it, a little bit of time overseeing a little bit of the fix up, no major structural, just mostly cosmetic. And then managing it, because I didn't live in it. I actually managed the property. I lived in a small apartment. I kept my lifestyle down. That the amount of capital returned to me was about 10x what I did waiting tables. And that was what told me something. There's something about owning assets that is going to make a difference. So I took that money. I was learning more about real estate. I found good mentors early on, and I just started buying houses with massive leverage. Now, not bank leverage. I actually just used creative financing. I took a title subject to loans that were there, got sellers to finance their equity. I brought other private capital in. I was stacking the deck, creating a capital stack, but always had to do what? It had to cash flow. And then I just took those properties and took extra money from my practice, snowballed down the loans. And 15 years later, I had pretty substantial, quote, passive, we call it passive. I was still managing my relatively small portfolio. I had about 35 properties, but they were good properties. I moved up the scale from, the typical properties you buy when you're starting out, they're the cheapos, and you learn really quickly the cheapos attract cheapo problematic tenants, and you got to up the ante. So I learned how to up the ante and buy better properties, which really didn't require a lot of management. And so that's the beginning of the story. I'll stop there.
Why dentistry though? Why'd you go into dentistry?
Why did I go into dentistry? Well, my father was a physician, and I was going to follow his footsteps. I always thought it was a great place to be. My father was respected. He, made a good living. And then I spent like a summer working as an orderly in the hospital. And I got to hear the stories of the doctors who hated the heck out of what they did because of the hours. I mean, my dad was gone a lot. I mean, he was a surgeon, and early hours, stress during the day, evening hours. And then I had my orthodontist who put braces on my teeth. And I went to see him. Nice, leisurely, no tie, no scrubs on. He's a great guy. I say, well, when do you come to work? 9. When do you leave? 4. I said, no, after hours. He goes, nope.
You're hacking it.
I said, I want to be like you. I want to be you. So I deviated from medicine and I went to dentistry. And it was a right move. But I will say that still, anytime you're trading time for dollars, even at a relatively high income level, it's a chain. It's a ball and chain. I mean, and the only way to leave that or be able to do it on a level that doesn't wear you out, burn you out, you got to have investment assets. And my favorite is what we're talking about today is real estate. I mean, to me, that's the best asset. But how you do it, how you learn how to do it, is also a key to making this stuff work.
I want to comment on that, and maybe I have a question here, maybe I don't. I trade time for dollars because we have a property management firm, but it's all based around accumulation of assets, and I truly enjoy it. And people probably say, dude, what the hell are you talking about? You're running property management on your assets. We don't third party. We just manage our own assets. And I truly enjoy the accumulation of these assets and then the overall management of the team, making them sing, if you will. Is that different to you? Because I think that I've, obviously traded time for money in the past, and this doesn't feel like that to me because we're building something that I don't need or want an escape from. I want more of it. And I feel like this is the way to make it hum, make it the well-oiled machine, whatever you want to say, and then just acquire more of that. I don't know if you have any comments on that statement.
Yeah, I do. Well, look, what I do today with my group, Freedom Founders, people would say, well, that's work, and I'm trading time for dollars. In a sense, I mean, I get a salary, but same thing. I mean, I'm building something that I love to do because the team I have. I mean, I always say that freedom is really, it's not laying on a hammock on a beach. I mean, that's fine here and there, but we're all doers. We want to build, we want to orchestrate, and when you get to do it with the people you really love to do it with. I mean, I've got an amazing team, just as you're alluding to. When you have a great team and you're making a difference not only for yourself, but for them, because they're part of something that they see impacting lives. You're impacting their lives, they're impacting other people's lives, and you're growing something that has a multiplying effect. Trading that time for dollars or whatever your metrics are, that's the joy that you get to when you understand that that's possible, and you don't have to just go down this construct, this road of you go to some job, work, career, and you do it for 30 plus years, and then you retire to the 401k. I mean, what kind of life is that? Yet so many people, that's the road they're on because they just don't know anything different.
I feel fortunate to be in the seat and have the opportunity to do this. Actually, like I think it's just it's a different mindset. So,
David, can you share the story of how your daughter Jenna motivated you to seek financial freedom and sell your business?
Yeah. Thanks, Gino. So one child, and Jenna, when she was 2.5 years old, she was diagnosed with high-risk leukemia. And that was a big turning point, negative, but also some positives. She got through it. The marriage to her mother did not, just too much stress. She made it through that. She had a series of about 4 years where she had breakthrough epileptic seizures. Life is not what I planned on it being. I'm still working and doing what I do and trying to, balance the time and that, but I couldn't do it all. So the marriage didn't make it, but Jenna did. And then at age 12, because of all the chemotherapy and all the anti-seizure medications, it blew out her liver. She was in end-stage liver failure as a 12-year-old kid, actually vomiting blood. And we got the diagnosis a few days later that she was in end-stage liver failure, and now she needs a liver transplant. And it was when she had come out of the surgery, and there was weeks where she was in the hospital, and there's always complication stuff. And I'm there. I mean, I'm there in the room where she's got, she's hooked up to all the machines, and she's just breathing. She's sleeping. She's breathing. And I'm just watching her breathe, looking at my child, and I'm realizing at that point, if I hadn't realized it before, is that all my hard work, all the money I could make, all my education, all my whatever, right? My entrepreneurial pursuits were of no validation to me at that point, because all that couldn't make a difference. What I really wanted was time. I wanted time. I wanted time where I wasn't chained to something that I'd been chained to, not for any reason other than I thought that was the thing you do. I needed time with my daughter, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, not in 20 years, not in time. I needed time right then. And so that time I was just watching her breathe is when I had to make a decision. Do I just keep doing what I'm doing, what society tells me to do? Oh yeah, David, but you got to be a dentist, you got to be a dad. It's like, no, what if I don't get another chance? What if she doesn't make it through this? Or what if her years are limited because cancer comes back? I mean, I'm not a negative person, but certainly the wake up call was
being
there.
real.
Yeah, I'm being real. And so I had to really get real about finances, because I'm a logical person. I'm not irrational. I do have to still provide for the family, but did I have enough at that point in assets, the real estate, producing enough, not all the money I'd ever want in the world, not for the future, but not have enough right then and there to bridge the gap to where if I sold my practice and just said, I'm a step away from active income from dentistry for whatever period of time, do I have enough to do that, to float the boat? I'd never done that calculation before. I was building up in equity. It was happening, right? The compound effect, the inflection it was building, but I just wasn't really putting a measure to it. And I sat down and put pen and pencil to it, and I go, you know what? I actually do. I actually got enough. So I made the decision. I'm selling the practice, and I don't know what's going to be next, but I didn't have to worry financially. I knew I'd do something. I could go back to do dentistry.
How many years were you investing to get to that point?
Well, so 1980, and this was 2004. So what's that? 24 years.
Put some work in. Yeah.
Well, and I realized too, and I want people to understand that going through a divorce, you pretty much have everything. You more than have it. I mean, if you're the producer, what I'm saying is I built up quite a bit, and then it got chopped, and I had to build it back up again. You always build up faster the second or third time, the iteration. If you go through you go through a 2008, a lot of people went through a 2008, had to come back up for air, but what they learned and the lessons along the way allowed them to rebuild. Well, same thing for me. I could rebuild faster to get back again. So that's what I did. So it is work, but it's discipline. And the time I put into building up those assets was not even close to what I was spent, being a dentist. It's kind of like my analogy from waiting tables to owning that first property. I mean, the time element was about a tenth of the time focused on that property versus the capital I received from it. So same thing here. It's work. Yep, it's discipline, but it builds quickly if you've got a plan or a program that allows you to acquire, manage, and operate for the cash flow and the equity build.
What lessons did you learn on the second go round that you made on the first go round?
Well, certainly that having a network, being out there, it's part of marketing. It's part of lead generation. I mean, I wasn't in the business of real estate, but through the community that I built up a reputation of, hey, this doctor over here, he'll buy a property if the situation's right. So the fact that I had a network in place, I had deal flow. In my small world, I had a lot of deal flow, and it gave me opportunities, pocket listing stuff that people bring me problem situations that I learned, because I learned how to solve problems. I learned how to create the financing structures to take property off the hands of someone who couldn't deal with it and put it in my world under financial machinations that made sense for me, and then I could build off of that. So probably the biggest lesson is having that network, getting outside the normal mindset thinking of what most people think about in terms of building wealth and freedom, which is put the money in a 401k. I call it a lockbox. I mean it's worthless. You can't touch it. You can't do anything with it. I mean, you can self-direct it. I get that, but most people don't even know how to do that. They just put it there, abdicate it to Wall Street, and keep their fingers crossed and hope for the best. And the best is not going to be what they wanted. It just can't be. It's not going to be.
You got to be more responsible, though, I think, ultimately, because you can go through and say, I'm just going to put my money in a 401k. I'm going to put an IRA. But I think there's a lack of responsibility in doing that. You're not being a good steward of your capital because you don't really know what's going on there. You're setting it, forgetting it. Someone else knows more than I do. If you take a little bit of time and educate yourself, you can create the path instead of somebody basically utilizing your capital for their gain. And I think that's what happens in many instances.
Well, Wall Street purposely makes it sound too complicated. I mean, way overcomplicated.
And they put in tripwires to keep the damn money in there so you can't have access to it.
All day long. And so we're conditioned to think it's too complicated. So we need to just hand it over to somebody else to run it.
Give it to the experts.
That's right.
They know more. turn it over.
Yeah, it's a very complicated world if you get hooked on that, and they'd make it. I mean, all the products. I mean, look at some of the products they have out there. I mean, I would go dizzy trying to figure out what all this means. I mean, it's just like
it doesn't have to be that hard, gang.
It doesn't have to be that hard, but yes, you do have to step outside the box. You do need to
take responsibility.
Take responsibility. Yep, and figure out a game plan that work for you. And I think the best game plan for most people, if they're not in the business of real estate, then you got to find the right people, because real estate, like everything in life, is relationships. So you got to take the time to build the right relationships. That does take a little bit of time on the front end, but the same thing, it's got a compound effect. You start finding the right people early, as I did when I was in my 20s, the right real estate mentors. I had to find them. I had to go through the guys who were just selling a bunch of, back in the day, it was cassette tapes. I had a load of those, right? Nothing wrong with that stuff, but I had to find the right people who
it's easier than understanding Wall Street. I'll put it that way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
David, how did you work with your identity? I mean, your identity, especially a lot of doctors are going to go through this. Their identity is they're the doctor. They're the pillar of the community. They have the DR in front of them. All of a sudden, they want to get into real estate, and everyone's going to look at them and go, "But you're a doctor. What are you doing? Going and fixing and flipping homes or owning assets." How did you overcome that? 'Cause that's a really big mental block for a lot of the students in the Jake and Gino community. They're professionals, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're IT, and all of a sudden they've got to transition over into this new endeavor. What did you do? What helped you out on that?
Well, I was actually an investor in real estate before I was a dentist, so I can claim actually I went from real estate to dentistry and then
he's
back to real
claiming
estate.
Investor over Dr. Gino. He doesn't want that title.
That's why he's on the show, Jake.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's perfect. So I had that going for me a little bit. I think you have to get over that. You have to decide, not let other people's definitions of who you are or success or whatever their agenda, society's agenda. If you let that dictate to you, you're always going to be average. So you have to decide what's important to you. Look, you can keep it professional. You can still be a professional. I did both. I was a professional in dentistry, and I had real estate. I did not combine the two. I did not have tenants coming to my office to pay rent. Let me put it that way. I kept them separate. So I thought that was a smart thing to do. But look, yeah, people knew me in my community as being a dentist, but also buying real estate. I never thought twice about it. I thought, well, what the heck's wrong with that? I mean, I think the people who I did business with, the attorneys, the real estate title company, I mean, I think they kind of admired me. Like, well, look, because no one else was doing it. I mean,
you weren't afraid to get out there and hustle. Like, yeah, I think that's the fear, is that you get comfortable as a doctor, and then to get the real estate piece, you might have to go out and hustle a little bit, and you might have to get your hands dirty. You might have to get your hands a little bit dirty. And then I thought, well, I wouldn't want to do that. It's like, well, yeah, that's how you actually make something happen. So yeah, I think to me, I did it when I was young, so I never knew anything different, and people just looked at me. I think I kind of appreciate the way they looked at me. Like, he's more entrepreneurial. He's actually doing something. I mean, the people who are in business, they get it. They go, smart guy, right? He's not just putting all his eggs in one basket. He's building out. And so, yeah, I didn't worry. Not afraid to step outside your comfort zone either.
That's right.
And make some calls and do some things. Yeah.
Can you give us some freedom questions that you normally ask?
Well, yeah, I think you have to define first what freedom means to you. I mean, Jake, you were talking earlier about the fact that, do you trade time for dollars? Well, we all do to some extent. We're building something, but are you doing something you really enjoy? And if it needs to make money, you want it to make money, you want to build equity, great. But do you enjoy what you do? If you don't, then you need to determine, what are the pieces of what I'm doing in my daily life today that I don't enjoy? I mean, it's never going to be perfect, but how much are you doing that's not really focused on what you really enjoy, what gives you energy? And how could you separate those things or delegate them or outsource them, the things that you don't like, to other people? So that's where I would start, just whether it's real estate or dentistry or whatever. Just, you can change the model. You just don't want to do it like everybody else does it. So, I mean, that's number one. What does freedom look like to you from the standpoint of what you do every day? In terms of building a freedom model that allows you to have more choices and options, where you don't have the compression of having to go make everything happen every day, that's the passive income. So what we talk about in Freedom Founders, and I put in the book, is what I call the freedom number. The freedom number is, what's it take to fund your lifestyle? And I say, let's do it on a monthly basis. You can annualize it, but monthly, what's it take to fund your lifestyle? Whatever it is, no judgment, but what's it take? So that tells you how much you need to replace of your active income and passive income. Put a safe harbor of 20% on top of that. There's your freedom number. So your freedom number, if you stacked it too high, if you're living too big a lifestyle, okay, that's your choice. It's going to take you longer to replace it. But if you're relatively frugal, okay, we'll just use the word frugal. But the point is, it lets you get to freedom faster. Once you get to freedom, and the compression's off, everything expands. I mean, everything expands. Everything you touch or put your hands on, because you're no longer under the neediness platform. I need to make this happen to pay the overhead and pay the taxes and pay my rent or my mortgage. You're no longer needy. And if you start with a number that's relatively frugal or modest, and that's why I love talking to younger people, because they've got all the opportunity in the world to do this. It's the people who get out of school and start feeling entitled to, well, I did the sacrifice. I put all this time in and so I'm going to buy the bigger house now. I need the better cars, and yep, my kids need all the private school. Yeah, and all of a sudden you've just jacked your lifestyle to here. Well, guess what that just did to you? You put you on a treadmill that's now got an incline that just went from 10 degrees to 30 degrees, and it's you sped it up.
You got an 80-pound backpack on too. Yeah.
So it's the freedom number, I think, is a key for everybody. And again, however you want to get to that number, whatever works for you. I just think real estate is it, bar none. But I'm a little bit biased like you guys are. It works.
Last question before we go to the short answer. You've got a bunch of stuff listed here. How do you make wealth exponential? You've got leverage, participations, good debt, snowballing, equity geometry, geographic arbitrage. That's another one, Jake, that's over my head, and cash flow on demand. Can we touch on those? Because I think it's all about wealth. It's like the hockey puck. You get to a certain point, you put in the effort, and all of a sudden
it pops.
It just goes, and we just have to stick into it long term. And
That's right.
We always like to say, Jake and I, if it don't cash flow, you let the grass grow. So cash flow is really important for us. Cash flow on demand. So can we get into this little exponential of wealth?
Yeah. So let's let me just take an example. I call them discovery calls with people that reach out to me, with Freedom Founders, that are typically they're professional practice owners, and many of them have tried to do real estate on their own. I'm a fan, but you do it on your own without some help or mentorship, then it's going to be a slow boat, right? Mm-hmm. And so what they'll do is they'll come and say, and I'll say, well, what do you got? Well, where are your assets right now? And as far as real estate, they'll say, I've got 5 or 6 rentals, that I bought in the last few years, and I put my money in a syndication. And I'll go, great. So about how much overall equity, do you have in these different assets? And they'll give me some number, and I'll go, perfect. How much passive cash flow are you generating? And it's minuscule. It's minuscule. I go, well, then how's it working for you? Well, they told me, that I'm getting tax depreciation offsets. Bingo. Great. Awesome. and it's appreciating. Okay, great. But didn't you do this for the cash flow? Because the cash flow is what's going to set you free. Back to your point. If it's not cash flow, you let the grass grow. If you're not building equity through the assets that are actually producing cash flow, then what the heck are you doing? And it's just because people don't know. They don't know. The marketplace today, as we well know, valuations are sky high today. So a retail investor today who doesn't know any better, who just watched flip this house and thinks it's easy street, they're going to go buy at a retail price and financing. They're going to they're going to overpay and they overfinance it. And so even if they're doing break even, what's the point? So it's cash flow, it's participations. That's why I say if you're a busy professional, you got to find the right people. You're not going to go out and build this yourself. You and your wife, you're going to hate your wife and she's going to hate you. If you're trying to go out on the street and figure this out, you're going to get bloodied. Do it through other people. And then later on, if you decide to exit your practice like I did, and you want to get more involved on an active basis, perfect for you. But, learn through other people. I had a lot of doctors who piggybacked on my deals when they found out that I sold my practice and figured out that I did real estate. Well, hey, David, can you show me how? Yeah, I'll show you how I did it back when I was in my 20s and early 30s, but you're not going to want to do that because it's a different marketplace today, and you're older than I was then. You've got a family. Your time is more valuable at the chair, whatever you're doing. I said, do participations. They said, what does that mean? I go, well, look, just piggyback on my deals. We're coming out of the 2008 downturn, the Great Recession. We're picking up, properties, like picking fruit off a tree, right? The more capital you had, we just went to town. And so I had a lot of private capital that came my way and said, this is how you learn. And they loved that because they could actually understand what I'm doing. They were making great returns. We all won doing that way. And if they want to go do it themselves, well, at least they have some constructs on how to do it instead of just going out there and floundering, in the space and not figuring out until later on that they made some bad moves because they just didn't know what they didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Equity geometry. What does that mean?
Well, that's the compound effect. That's the compound effect. We know that as equity builds, and there's different ways to build equity. You can buy at a discount for sure. You want to add value to opportunities, to add to the management or add to the capacity of the cash flow generation. And then there's the appreciation inflation. So as you're building equity, There's nothing wrong with letting that equity just continue to grow and the cash flows go up with it. But if you want to re-leverage, you refinance out, right? You take equity out and you re-leverage it into more property. So that's the geometry. That's the hockey stick. That's how you want to grow it. If you're in a growth mode and you want to grow more, then that's the way to do it. If you're in a place where you don't need to grow and you want preservation of capital, you want to play it quote safe, then you don't need to pull equity out. You just run with what you got. But some model of both I think is important. So that's where equity geometry comes from.
Jake, before we go to the short answers, I just want to recap something and make sure that everyone understands that multifamily, and I think real estate, it's a team sport. So if you've got an ego and you think you need to shed the ego and leave it at the front door, I think you really need to invest in your education. You spend 300 grand to go to dental school or wherever it is. If you're going to spend a few $1,000 for mentorship, if you weigh the pros and cons, you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your future, you're investing in taking control of your money, because people with financial intelligence can change the world for the better. That's the bottom line. So if we educate ourselves and we understand that it is a team sport and you have to find where the value is within yourself. If you're an entrepreneur, great, start the business. If you can raise capital, great, raise a little bit of capital. If you like and you think you can go and find deals, great, go and find deals. If you can bring capital to the table, there's so many different facets of real estate that you can participate in, but most people don't even know that.
That's right.
So it's all about surrounding yourself. And I would say, start going to seminars, start going to live events, maybe join a mastermind and see what other people are talking about and have an open mind. And honestly, once again, just shed the ego. We know there's a lot of super intelligent people out there that are broke because they didn't let go of their ego and they didn't want to learn and they didn't want to become students of the game. It's all about their identity, saying, oh, I got to go back from the very beginning and start. We're all beginners at one point. And if you can surround yourself with amazing people with that proximity, you will learn from them.
Well said. Beautiful.
You know, you're getting tax benefits. You don't have to show up to make the money. You get mortgage pay down. There's a lot of good math on that table. But hey, let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor.
Are you looking for ways to improve your life?
Here at Jake and Gino, our mission is to empower students through financial education and the vehicle of multifamily investing.
Yes, Jake. We agree that a person with financial intelligence can change the world for the better.
We've created our proprietary 3-step framework, buy right, manage right, and finance right, that we teach to our community. This framework, along with education, our one-on-one mentorship, on-site boot camps, and the amazing community has propelled our students to massive success.
We've all been there. We've had so many students that have been able to shift their mindset, overcome limiting beliefs, and set a clear path to achieve their goals. Whether you're currently fixing and flipping, wholesaling, or buying single-family rentals, and you know that multifamily investing is the right vehicle for you, I encourage you to visit jakeandgino.com/apply to schedule your complimentary consultation with our team. And I want to let you know this isn't a high-pressure sales call. It's really just a discovery call to get to know each other better and see if we're a good fit for working together. And if for any reason we're not a good fit, our team has tons of resources we will share with you to help you along your journey.
If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels, go to jakeandgino.com/apply and schedule your call now. All right, we are back. You know, I just sound like a broken record with this stuff sometimes, but I'm going to go there anyways, Gino. I'm an equity hound, and we've syndicated a couple deals, but ultimately we just buy deals. Gino and I, we go in, we buy deals, we bring our team members on board, and you know, if there's 150 units, we get the money and we go buy. We typically don't syndicate it. Now, I love that, but it does prevent. We don't grow as fast. We're more selective, in my opinion, and you know that's up for debate. We're more selective in what we buy because we're really looking to make sure it's a good fit from multiple levels. Our we call it PPU internally. It's our profit per unit was nearly $300 last month. We run it every month. And I think that it's an interesting scenario because you're saying, well, you're invested in this deal, you're invested in that. We're investing truly for cash flow. That's what we do. We want to build that cash flow snowball up over time. So I think it's interesting when you're saying you're speaking to these folks and they're putting their money in there, but it's kind of like out there and they get so accustomed to having it in the quote unquote market that they probably don't really think about it. But I would just, you know, there's no question here that I'm coming with, but I just would say if you're a physician out there, you're putting your money out there in syndications or wherever, look at the PPU, check the profit per unit per month and ask yourself, what is, you know, coming through and what percentage of my equity am I getting paid on there? Because that's when this stuff gets really fun and interesting when you're getting that high PPU. So to dovetail off that, the folks that are in your group and the members that you're with, what does management look like for them? And how do you kind of navigate those waters? I just love to hear how you guys are sort of doing it.
So everything we do in our community, Jake, is through relationships, through other people like yourselves who have a model where you've already built a model. You've got a track record, you've got history. It's people that I know or get to know through referral basis. We still, in our group, we still vet everybody. We do background checks. We take, if we are going to go into a syndication or a fund that someone's got, we have a securities attorney that goes through and looks at all the documentation. But the bottom line is our people, and including myself, I'm fully passive today. I don't do anything out there. I want to have my money working through other people that have a great model. I want to do it that way. So the management, there is no management for us to do. We have some great turnkey single family rental property managers, but like you, it's all inside management. It's never outsourced, and that's their model. So we can even scale that, which typically people say, well, single family is really hard to scale. Well, it is if you don't have systems and operations, but people go to multifamily and self-storage and others to scale more, but there's still opportunities in single family if you don't have to do the management. Management is a business. It's not something to do as a hobby unless you and your wife love to go out and deal with properties and tenants on the weekends, which I have doctors that have done that. And as soon as they see there's a better way, who smiles the biggest? Their wife, their spouse, because she knows, as hardworking as he is and wanting to do this thing called real estate, which, great intentions, right? But she knows that the stress that it puts on him and them together, just for a handful of properties, that they just, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't have time to build the models and learn that. Why not do it through other people? But you've got to find the right people. Yes,
it takes time to build the infrastructure.
It takes time to build the infrastructure, or it takes time to find the right people if you want to invest with or through other people. Either way, you've got to spend time. But again, it's the compound effect. You build the model or the infrastructure if that's what you want to do, or you build the relationships, because good relationships will add to more relationships. And I think, again, for busy people who don't want to be in the business of real estate and build that infrastructure, the best way, bar none, is to find the right people. But do that with diligence. You don't just go out and toss your money to the wind and someone says, here's our IRR projection for the next 5 years. You got to know what you're looking for. To your point, what's the PPU? What are you looking for? What are the questions you need to ask? And most people have no clue as to what to ask. They're sold on something that sounds great, and real estate's up, and that's where you need to be today. And they throw money at stuff, and then they come back and look at it 2 or 3 years later. What did I invest in? I don't really know. I have no clue.
I mean, unfortunately for some folks, look, they're riding a market wave right now, and they can come up with that regardless of the cash flows there. They're going to be able to exit, because that's, every 3 years, 2 years, whatever, people are exiting these deals. And, at some point that probably starts to fizzle a little bit. I think the management of single family is doable. You want to be in a tighter geographical footprint if possible. And you see the trend right now moving to this build for rent, and people it's actually a desirable thing. So I think putting a collection of assets together in a close geographical area could make a lot of sense. It's going to be a lot of work, but there could be a high upside on that as well. So I'm not, telling people to shy away from it. We're looking at development right now of like essentially duplexes, more or less, townhome duplex style. And we love that. So I think that, don't hold your nose up to it. Just make sure that you're not going to put yourself in a position where they're, 60 miles apart and there's one maintenance man trying to, that's where you got to look into to make sure that they have a team that's able to, cover and offer good customer service, because that's why people are going to leave you. If you're constantly having leaks and people are not being, taken care of, that's when your customers are going to walk away. So how are you guys scaling from an asset management perspective, though? Because there's got to be a review process, I'm sure. What are you doing to manage these managers to make sure they're executing to your standards?
Yeah, good point. We keep a strong thumb. I say that in a nice way. These are all.
It sounds intimidating. Like I'm nervous to be one of these managers right now.
That's why I said I say that with a little bit of tongue in cheek. We're all friends, but yes, the caliber of quote customer service. I'm not talking about guarantees of returns. They're going to be as good as the market allows for good operators. And as you said, right now we've been in an up market for years now. That's going to change, but still good assets managed by good people are still going to ride right through it. So we have our community leverages the amount of capital we have to deploy. And so the people that we work with, the asset managers that you reference, we call them trusted advisors in our group. They want to be part of our group because we bring them a lot of educated capital. They don't have to do a lot of hand holding. I mean, we educate as we go. And so they love the fact that they get repeat customers there. And to do that, they've got to maintain a high caliber of customer service, whether it's single family or multifamily or whatever the asset is, the communication level and, good operations. They're all good operators, but communication is key. Communication to the investors, and also how they take care of the end user, the tenants, right? I mean, you just said it. I mean, if you're not taking care of them, everything breaks down. So I think it's really a lot of peer pressure that they want to stay
put the heat on.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, look, it rarely happens, but sometimes if there's not a fit or something breaks down, we give people a chance to up the game. We always do. Look, things happen, and no one ever has a perfect score on anything, but it's people that step and go, hey, yeah, we dropped the ball over here, or this didn't happen, and they fix it. Well, that's all I want. All I want is people that are responsive. Just be responsive, communicate, tell me what's happening, and I'll ride with you anywhere as long as I know that's the person you are, and that's the people we have.
That's key. And I'm sure the value proposition is that you're able to bring large chunks of capital with educated folks. So it's not a $25,000 investment from someone that's their last $25,000 where they're going to have to handhold. These are sophisticated investors that they kind of know what's up. So it's interesting. Any books that you've read in the last year or two that added value to your life that you'd like to share with the folks?
I got books all around me here, guys.
There's got to be one of them, right? Because it looks like you're in a library right now.
I got books everywhere. What am I reading right now? That's good. Actually a book. I think it's called the Value Investor. I don't have it right here. It's downstairs. The Value Investor, Wall Street, but learned a lot from Buffett, and it's an interesting story. It's not about real estate per se, but it's about how he changed his thinking about the long game of investing. So there's applications to what we do today. I mean, that's just a book I'm reading right now. Just came to mind.
What's the long game of investing? Can you define that?
Well, the long game of investing is to find a model that I believe has a model or an asset that is always going to be in demand, no matter what we go through. And housing is one of those. I mean, but other businesses, Buffett's a value investor in companies, right? He buys stock in companies for the long game. He's not looking to make the short buck or the quick trade or the quick run up and exit. It's the long game is you get into something that you ride for a long period of time through the ups and downs of the market cycles, because that particular model, that asset, has a history of riding through the ups and downs, the downturns, the corrections, and you stay with it. You're not afraid. You continue to reinvest in that model because it's a good model for the long run.
What's your personal approach to the long game? Because I love this stuff.
Personal approach to the long game. I mean, I only have enough income, or I need enough income just to live my lifestyle. Everything else is compounding. Everything else is and some of it comes back in distributions I can't use. I mean, some of it's in retirement accounts, but the long game for me is I just let the money work for me now. Lucky stick happened for me a number of years ago. As you said, I didn't see it happening, but once you hit that hockey stick, your long game investing it just compounds. Whether you're active in it, semi-active, or you're passive, just doing it through other people, that's what'll happen for you. And so, look, I don't even measure or look at it really. I mean, I kind of know where I'm at, but back when I was younger, I was counting pennies and dollars and tight budgets. You have to, right? I'm at a point in life where I don't really have needs. I'm not magnanimously wealthy by any means. There's enough. I got enough, and I enjoy the people I work with. Though? What's that?
Do you sell assets though? Because I struggle. We've sold assets, but I very much struggle with it. Like I honestly hate it. I
sell assets when I think there's a better place for my capital or my time. And so I had a large portfolio of single family rentals. That's where I started, right? I had a large portfolio, and I started selling those assets and redeploying that capital probably 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, actually before the 2016 election, which I thought was going to go a different way. It didn't. We got this continued run. But I continue to exit those properties because why? Well, I don't want to manage. I'm down to a few, and now I redeploy my money through other people that I think do a great job. So that's when I sell assets. I think you sell assets, or you can exchange equity, through 1031s a day into assets if you believe that's a better place for your money. You can move it if there's a better place. But if there's not a better place to move it, then why sell? I mean, I wouldn't sell unless you have a better place for the capital and you're in the time element. Your time, if you're putting active time into that equity, and there's a better place for it, then you might move it there. But if not, don't move it.
All right, sit tight.
That's right.
What's the best way for listeners to get a hold of you?
Website is freedomfounders.com. I do a podcast called the Dentist Freedom Blueprint Podcast. We do not talk clinical dentistry, so you don't have to be a dentist to go there. So I talk about freedom and what I've done and what our members do, and other people that I love having on the show that talk about what we talked about today is how do you build the wealth to have the freedom and get off the treadmill of whatever it is you're doing that's causing you burnout.
Are you ready to get off the treadmill and wrap this sucker up?
Will you give me a couple of minutes, Mr. Stenziano? I want to weave in David's story with a couple of really golden nuggets from the episode. I'm sitting in church on Sunday, and it's Epiphany Sunday, and I didn't know what Epiphany meant. Epiphany means the manifestation or Jesus is appearing. And it's really appropriate now that I'm thinking through David's story. We all have epiphanies in life, and God works in mysterious and amazing ways and sometimes confusing ways. When David's sitting at his bedside of Jenna, and he's saying to himself, I want more time freedom. I'm doing something that I wasn't meant to be doing. This is not what I wanted to do. I want to be an entrepreneur. He made a decision. The epiphany was, I need to get out of what I'm doing, and I want to become an entrepreneur. I want to start investing in assets. And sometimes we have that in our lives and we want to say no to it, but we know truly deep down in our gut, that's what God's telling us to do. He's pushing us in the right direction, and he's showing us. And it may be hard at that time. And I couldn't even imagine having a daughter who's sick like that. I've got 6 children, and I always pray for them. And that's the one thing I worry about. And I don't know if I'd have the strength to do that, but sometimes that's what we need. We need to call up the strength within ourselves and say, I wasn't meant to trade time for dollars. I was meant to spend more time and to have more of an impact on other people's lives. And what I liked about it is he had started working, and he continued to work on it. He continued to invest in those assets and built up his portfolio. And then at one time, that freedom number, everybody, I challenge everybody, look at it from your perspective. What do you have in your life? What assets do you have? Not only cash flow, not even, I'm talking about whether it's intellectual assets, what skills do you have in life? We all have certain skills. How do we deploy those skills? Understanding the freedom number. How do you pick it? I think the other thing, Jake, that comes through in this is all of us need to become producers. We are taught to become consumers, but if we learn how to produce, we will be producing a lot more than we'll ever want to consume in life. And if we have that mindset of continuing to produce, it'll be very, very important. The other thing is that ROE, it's return on effort. I love what David's doing. He's redeploying assets that he had once bought, which were right for him at the time. Now he's grown. He's become a much better and a much different investor. And he's taking the capital out of there, not going out and buying a Lambo. He's redeploying it into
You don't know that.
assets.
He may have a Lambo. He's got a fancy library behind him. So you never know.
But he can do that if he wants, but he's reinvesting in his thing. So that ROE, that return on effort, is truly important. Building relationships is also important. How do we do that? Going to events. David was at an event. That's how we met him. Going out there and networking and creating those relationships. And also, last thing, multifamily and real estate is a team sport. If you want to become successful, you need to go out there and invest in yourself. But like Jake had said in another podcast previously we were recording, you need clarity. We don't lack the motivation in life. We lack the clarity in life. Once we can understand the clarity and the blueprint for our lives, because we're all unique. We all have unique different skill sets and unique different dreams and goals. We just need to know what they are. And I personally think by investing those assets, by saving money to buy an asset, not by saving money for an event, will completely and ultimately will change your life for the better.
Clarity will allow you to sprint. So this is good. Hey, David, really appreciate your time. Gino, you are the man. Thank you both so much. Until next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.